Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. The top headlines tonight. Veteran Congress leader Mallikarjun Kharge is the new Congress president. Seen as Gandhi-backed, he gets 88% of the vote of over 9,000 delegates. But Shashi Tharoor does better than expected with over 1,000 votes. Sonia Gandhi drives to Kharge's residence to congratulate him. The Prime Minister also tweets. And Rahul Gandhi says, I'll now report to Kharge ji, he'll decide my role. The rupee hits a new low. This as the dollar also hits a new high. The rupee closes below 83 rupees to the dollar for the first time. Is this good behavior? Fresh molestation and rape charges. A rape FIR was filed against one of the Bilkis convicts while he was on parole. So how is it that these convicts have got remission when they had actually committed criminal behavior while they were on parole? A new airbase, Prime Minister Shri schools, all this on Mission Gujarat. And English is a sign of slave mentality in our country, says the Prime Minister as he launches model schools for the new education policy. Also, the dig at the previous government says they release pigeons, now we release cheetahs. The UN Secretary General is on a 3-day India visit, arrives in Gujarat tonight. Meanwhile, he has strong words on minority and human rights at home in an address at IIT Mumbai. The other big news, China today blocked an India-US resolution on Pakistan-based terror.
Mr. Speaker, that I am sorry and that I have made mistakes.
Facing booing MPs, UK Prime Minister Liz Truss says she's a fighter, not a quitter. This as UK inflation now crosses 10%. Our lead story tonight, 80-year-old Congress veteran Mallikarjun Kharge is the party's new president. It was a landslide victory, with him getting 88% of the votes of over 9,000 delegates. But main contender Shashi Tharoor did much better than expected, getting over 1,000 votes. Was he a Gandhi-backed nominee? No, say party experts. In fact, Sonia Gandhi drove to Mr. Kharge's house to congratulate him, and Rahul Gandhi said that he now reports to Mallikarjun Kharge, as do all Congress workers. But will this dispel the notion that he is a Gandhi remote control?
Grand old party's first non-Gandhi president of the 21st century, taking over from Sonia Gandhi. 80-year-old Mallikarjun Kharge won 88% of the valid votes. His challenger Shashi Tharoor 12% and was seen as the official Gandhi-backed candidate. Rahul Gandhi denies that but let the results slip before it was officially announced.
My role, of course I cannot comment on Congress President's role, that is for Mr. Kharge to comment on. I am very clear as far as my role is concerned. The Congress President will decide what my role is and how I am to be deployed.
Kharge is all set to take over as Congress President formally on the 26th of this month and reached out to Tharoor and the Gandhis.
मेरे साथी श्री शशि थरूर को भी शुभकामना देता हूं, क्योंकि ये चुनाव में हम एक प्रतिनिधि के रूप में हम और वो खड़े थे। सभी कांग्रेस कार्यकर्ताओं की ओर से मैं श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। सोनिया जी ने पर्सनल सैक्रिफाइस कर 23 वर्ष तक कांग्रेस पार्टी के अपने खून पसीने से सींचा है।
While Tharoor was quick to congratulate Mr. Kharge, just before the results, his team complained about the irregularities in Uttar Pradesh, which has the largest number of delegates, but this was rejected by the election in charge.
When you find yourself playing a match on an uneven pitch and the ball bounces and turns awkwardly, you still have to bat. And I have been batting. We were only concerned that there should be no pitch tampering or ball tampering. And I think that for the most part, we have no complaints of that score. In any case, as has been pointed out, the result was pretty decisive. So I think it would be unfortunate to sort of blame conditions. What happened has happened. We have put forward the best account of ourselves that we could, and clearly it wasn't good enough to carry the day.
Mr. Kharge has his work cut out. The dominance of the Gandhi family as a power center, rebuilding of a party which has lost several of the last elections since 2014, the exit of several senior leaders turned rebels like Ghulam Nabi Azad, Jyoti Aditya Scindia, Kapil Sibal, and perhaps most immediately the tussle for power in Rajasthan between the Congress Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot and his challenger Sachin Pilot, as well as the Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh campaign, which has seen only Priyanka Gandhi campaign so far. Rahul Gandhi has today said his priority is his yatra, and which will end in January next year after the Gujarat and Himachal elections.
I would say tapasya in understanding our people, in understanding our land, and in understanding myself. I am not looking beyond this yatra. For me, this yatra is important, and my entire focus needs to be on this yatra.
The two candidates are sharp contrasts of each other. One flamboyant, seen as elitist and daring to contest the Congress elections. The other a family loyalist, backroom strategist and ready to be a presidential candidate at the very last minute after the other Gandhi-backed candidate dropped out. In a pointed statement, the party's communication in charge, Mr. Kharge, always avoided flamboyance and has been the organization man working in a self-effacing manner to advance the collective interests of the Congress party. Mr. Kharge will occupy the post once occupied by stalwarts like Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, Madan Mohan Malviya and Abdul Kalam Azad before independence. Since independence, there's been a Nehru Gandhi at the helm for the 42 of the last 75 years. Does he have what it takes to revive the party's fortune, especially in the 2024 elections? Mr. Kharge's victory was expected, but the 1,072 votes that Tharoor polled and the over 400 votes that were rejected are a clear message to the Congress party that they need to take certain corrective measures in terms of internal reforms to take the party forward. For Mr. Kharge, he has a task set off as soon as he takes over of not only forming a new steering committee and a plenary session, but also holding crucial elections for the Congress Working Committee, the CEC, as well as the Parliamentary Board. With Ankit and Shrija, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, let's go across to the other big headline tonight. The rupee has crossed 83 rupees to the dollar for the first time. It's at a record low. They said the dollar is at the highest level since 2000. Now, Priyanshi, of course, when Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman made this point, the opposition attacked her for this. But what really is this whole relationship between the rupee and the dollar? And why is it that the dollar is going up so fast, not just against the rupee, but against other currencies as well? And what does this mean about the stability of the rupee?
Right, Sonia, let's decode all of those points one by one. When the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the rupee is not falling, instead the dollar is rising. So the rupee is only weakening in comparison. So there was a lot of criticism to that statement. But technically, it's not incorrect to say that, and we have facts to show that. The rupee has crossed the 83 to the dollar mark for the first time today. It's closed at 83.0 to the dollar, which means that our currency lost close to 66 paise of its value just in today's trading session. Now, if we compare it with other currencies as well, one of the major reasons that's dragging the rupee down has been the dollar strengthening. It's not just strengthening against the rupee, but against a basket of currencies. Let's get you those figures. Against the euro, compared to January to now, the dollar has gained 6%, meaning the euro has depreciated 6%. The rupee has depreciated 14% against the dollar, and dollar has appreciated 22% against the yen. It has appreciated 20% against the pound, appreciated 14% against the yuan, and it is it's not just appreciating against all currencies, but it's also depreciating against some. So against the Brazilian real, the dollar is actually depreciated by 5%. So as you can see, that even developing and developed countries' currencies are also falling against the dollar, and it's not just the rupee. So it is a valid argument to say that rupee is weakening because dollar's value in comparison is rising. Dollar is at a 2-decade high. Now, why is this happening? When there are fears of a global recession and when there are interest rate hikes across countries, investors want to keep their money naturally to a safe currency, and that is what we call the greenback, the dollar. So they take their money from emerging markets and keep it in safe dollar-backed investments, dollar-backed bonds and dollar as a currency. So that is why the demand for the rupee and other emerging markets currencies falls, and that's why, as we know, when a demand falls, the price of that currency falls, and when the demand for the dollar rises, the rate of the dollar naturally rises. So that is what is really happening. That's what's taking the dollar really high, and that is why we can see major currencies falling against the dollar. There are internal reasons as well. Our imports are really high, and they're increasing every month. So that is why we're paying more foreign currency, and that's also taking the rupee down. But majorly, the reason is the dollar strengthening. So the finance minister is not wrong in saying that. If we also tell you about inflation, these rising interest rates and the falling rate of the dollar, it's also going to make fighting inflation really really hard for all of us. And inflation is rising across countries. In the UK, inflation has again crossed 10%, and it's now at a 40-year high. Eurozone inflation is at 9.9%, while India's inflation also has been above 7% above the RBI's tolerance band. Right. So inflation definitely a concern, and rupee reaching 83 is definitely a pain point. The Congress as well tweeted a cartoon sort of meme to hit out at the government, the 83 movie that came out featuring, and that meme featured the Prime Minister. So the opposition is really hitting out, even at the Finance Minister's statement. It is definitely a point of concern, but the dollar rising is one of the major reasons.
Priyanshi, thanks so much for that. And the markets, as we can see, are gaining today for the 4th straight session. So even that bad news isn't dampening markets at the moment. The Sensex up by 0.25%, the Nifty up by 0.14%. Nestle and ITC have jumped 2% each. Moving now to an NDTV exclusive. Well, the reason the Gujarat government told the Supreme Court on why the fact that the 11 men convicted of brutal murder and rape in the Bilkis Bano case during the Gujarat riots was their good behaviour. But as NDTV has found, is good behaviour is a grossly inappropriate term, because at least some of these convicts, one of them actually had an FIR of rape filed against him while he was on parole. Others were accused of intimidating witnesses. Tanushree Pandey reports.
These 11 men, rapists and murderers convicted in the Bilkis case, were released early with laddus and garlands on grounds of good behaviour when they were in jail or out on parole. But that justification by the Gujarat government is on shaky ground after these FIRs and police complaints accessed by NDTV. Between 2017 and 2021, at least 4 witnesses in the Bilkis Bano case registered complaints and FIRs against the convicts while they were out on parole, NDTV's investigation reveals. And apart from the 1 FIR and 2 complaints accessed by NDTV against the convicts, there's another FIR against one of the convicts, Shailesh Bhatt, for outraging the modesty of a woman. Shockingly, this FIR is part of the Gujarat government's own filings in the Supreme Court. In July 2020, an FIR was registered in Radhikpur police station by Sabera Ben Patel, another victim of the Gujarat riots and a witness in the Bilkis Bano case, Pintu Bhai, against 2 of the convicts, Radhesham Shah and Mitesh Bhai Bhatt, on charges of sexual assault and threats while they were on parole. In January 2021, Mansuri Abdul Majid, another witness, filed a police complaint with Dahod police against another convict, Shailesh Bhatt, in January, alleging threats from the convict while he was out on parole. In July 2017, 2 other witnesses, Adam Bhai, Ismail Bhai and Imtiaz Bhai Yusuf Bhai, filed a complaint against one of the convicts, Govind Nai, again alleging that the accused made threats of murder if they didn't agree to compromise while he was on parole.
I have said no, when the government and the concerned people have taken decision, I don't want to make any comment on that. And I don't find anything wrong in that, because it is done as per the process of the law.
Gujarat elections are round the corner, and now with these FIRs and serious complaints against the convicts of Bilkis Bano case while they were out on parole, questions are being raised about the intentions of the Gujarat government and the central government in approving the premature release of the convicts. Whether the Gujarat government goes back in its order, only time will tell, but for now it has some answering to do. With Tanushri Pandey in Gujarat, Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
Well, another news with the election in Gujarat at the end of the year. The Prime Minister was in Gujarat for a series of campaigns and launches. Amongst them was the launch of a new airbase, a planned airbase coming up near the western border. Also at the Defence Expo, and the Prime Minister launching Schools of Excellence, where the new national education policy will be the major focus. But the focus on schools also got him some focus from the opposition.
Back to school day for the Prime Minister as he sat alongside students in a model classroom. Ostensibly a government event, part of the launch of a scheme meant to modernize Gujarat's public school system. The political optics in election season could not be clearer. Given how the Aam Aadmi Party, the BJP's emerging rival in Gujarat, has made the promise of high-quality government education, the so-called Delhi model, a key part of its election pitch. In his speech to a gathering of government school teachers from across Gujarat, the Prime Minister spoke of shedding the shackles of slavery.
नई राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति गुलामी की मानसिकता से देश को बाहर निकालकर टैलेंट को, इनोवेशन को निखारने का प्रयास है। अब देखिए, देश में क्या स्थिति बनाकर रख दी गई थी। अंग्रेजी भाषा के ज्ञान को इंटेलिजेंस का पैमाना मान दिया गया था, जबकि भाषा तो सिर्फ संवाद का, कम्युनिकेशन का एक माध्यम पर है।
The response to the Prime Minister's event was swift, with Arvind Kejriwal tweeting several times claiming credit for shifting the debate to education. He also asked the Prime Minister to seek his party's expertise in revamping public education.
पूरे देश के सारे स्कूलों को 10 लाख सरकारी स्कूल हैं पूरे देश में, सारे स्कूलों को मात्र 5 साल के अंदर ठीक किया जा सकता है। हम अलग अलग पार्टियों से हैं, अलग अलग हमारी विचारधारा है, लेकिन हम एक ही देश के लोग हैं। तो मैं उनसे निवेदन करता हूं, हम आपको ऑफर कर रहे हैं, आप हमारा उपयोग कीजिए और मिलके देश के लिए एक साथ मिलके हम देश के सारे सरकारी स्कूलों को ठीक करते हैं।
The Prime Minister's school push was just one stop in his whistle-stop tour of Gujarat, which began with his kicking off the Defence Expo in Gandhinagar, centered around the Make in India theme.
कोई जमाना था जब कबूतर छोड़ा करता था, आज चीता छोड़ने की ताकत रखता है।
The packed day ended with mega launches of government schemes in Saurashtra, staged at public rallies, as the government ticks closer to the announcement of the Gujarat elections. Bureau Report, NDTV.
In other news, the UN Secretary General is in India on a 3-day visit. In fact, he's currently in Gujarat. But he also had strong words at a speech at IIT Mumbai on minority rights and human rights at home in India. This on a day that China has blocked an Indian and US proposal against Pakistan-based terror.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on a 2-day visit to India. Starting his first visit to the country in his second term, Guterres came with some critical advice for the world's largest democracy and also currently a member of the United Nations Security Council.
As an elected member of the Human Rights Council, India has a responsibility to shape global human rights and to protect and promote the rights of all individuals, including members of minority communities.
While making sharp observations on human rights, Guterres also highlighted the need for condemning hate speech unequivocally. He also stressed on the need for robust institutions, including protecting journalists for a well-functional democracy. His comments coming within 12 hours of Sana Irshad Mattu from Jammu and Kashmir being stopped from flying out of the country for the second time since last year. She was to receive the prestigious Pulitzer Prize for Journalism.
By condemning hate speech unequivocally, by protecting the rights and freedoms of journalists, human rights activists, students and academics, and by ensuring the continued independence of India's judiciary. This is the India that the world has celebrated, and I urge Indians to be vigilant and to increase your investments in an inclusive, pluralistic, diverse community and society.
The United Nations Secretary General started his visit by paying tributes to the victims of the 26/11 terror attack at the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai. This even as in New York, China once again blocked an India-US proposal at the UN to list Lashkar-e-Taiba's Shahid Mahmood as global terrorist. Mahmood has been a long-standing senior elite member based in Karachi and has been affiliated with the group since 2007. The same terror outfit that carried out the dastardly 26/11 terror attack in Mumbai. Bureau Report, NDTV.
The UN Secretary General speaking there. Meanwhile, in international news, UK Prime Minister Liz Truss today faced booing MPs in Parliament. Her response, "I'm a fighter, not a quitter."
Sorry, and that I have made mistakes. But the right thing to... Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter. I have acted in the national interest to make sure that we have economic stability.
Mr. Speaker, she's asking me questions because we're a government in waiting and they're an opposition in waiting.